everyone, welcome. This is the Data and Performance Management meeting. Thank you for attending. If you haven't already, please enter your agency name into the chat box so we know who is participating. Today we will be covering user data dashboards as well as the rapid rehousing project performance reports. So first, for the data dashboards, this is a request that we received from a couple different agencies in the past. And so we want to work on developing this to meet your need, but today I wanted to talk about exactly what you want to see on this user dashboard. So my understanding from past conversations is that some agencies had a need to be able to see data by each user that entered it within their agency. But I wanted to understand more if it was data quality or performance or just data entered. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So I have a few different ways of looking at your agency's data by each user that entered it. So I'm going to show you those examples, and then we can talk about it. And if you are interested in this dashboard, you can give me your feedback on what you would like to see. I'll also do a little poll as well to make sure everyone has a chance to contribute. So the first sample I have here is if you wanted to be able to see data completeness for each of your users by data elements. So if we included something like this on the dashboard, it would be very similar to the universal data elements and program specific data element dashboards that we have now, which is a separate chart for each data element. And then there would be a separate bar for each user at your agency that contributed data during whatever the reporting period was. And then you'd be able to see if the responses were valid or missing or don't know, refused. So that's one option for how we can look at data by user. The next option is we can just look at over a reporting period, how much data each user entered. So in this example, you can see we have enrollment data, and so user 1 entered 14 enrollments during the reporting period and user 2 entered 9. And you could look at this type of data for enrollment, services, exits. We could also do assessments, files, that kind of stuff, whatever the group thinks is useful. So that's the option 2. The next option is this is looking at how many clients each user entered that had missing data. So for over a reporting period, this is looking at, for example, every enrollment that a user entered and how many enrollments had a don't know, refuse, data not collected, or blank response that should have been filled. So you can see user 1, for example, had 3 enrollments with missing data and user 2 only had 1. So that's something else. Another way we could look at the data. This is something that your agency is interested in. And then I think this was my last one. So this is looking at performance by users. So this is very similar to the project performance reports that we already do for each project. But instead of looking at a project as a whole, it is divided by user. So each user is a bar on this visual. And you can see the percentage of their clients for this measure in particular that entered from a homeless situation. So 100% of the enrollments entered by user 4 entered from homeless situations, and user 5, only 88% of users entered from homeless situations. So I think this was my last one. Yes. So those are the options I have. I'm going to give everyone a minute to think. If you have comments or feedback, you can put it in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and we can talk about it. And then I'll get into the poll in a minute also. I do see a comment from Christine. Great options. Will the dashboard be dynamic? Meaning if there's missing data, can I click that to know what clients are missing data? So it won't be like the web page option when you run a canned report. So if I click on this 100%, I can't see who those clients are. But we will have a complimentary report or something similar. You will be able to see who these clients are.
Hi, this is Adriana from Wise Place.
Hi.
First of all, thanks, Christine, for that question, because that would help us correct the errors. But my comments about these are that these would be really helpful in our data entry performance. I really like all of them. I just wanted to clarify, could we run these on any of our projects, or would this be coordinated entry specific?
This would be any projects at your agency.
Yeah, I like it. These are all great. I think this would improve our data entry, at least speaking from my perspective.
Okay, great.
Erin, I had a question.
Yeah.
For the, I think it was option 3, the clients with missing data, it looks at how many clients each user has that has missing data. So would that count one client if it's missing several points of data that are possibly like missing, like date of birth or like social security number? Would that count as 1 or 2 clients?
This is counting one client, even if they have a bunch of missing data. So we
would
could,
they somehow,
go ahead.
would it somehow let the user know where they need to look for, like to find that missing data?
That's what I was talking about. We will have some kind of details report so that you'll be able to see who these people are. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Other comments on these options? Are any of these not useful? Because if we do all of this, we'd probably have to have multiple dashboards.
I think the missing data is valuable, especially if we can, again, you say we couldn't just click on it, but I think if we could just run a report, right, that it shows us what's missing, it would be beneficial, but I'm not sure about the other options.
Okay.
That screen that you're on right now, Erin, I appreciate that screen because I'm able to see which user is being more active. One part that we're kind of struggling in is the services part that's like not reflecting the work that we're doing. So I really would find this screen useful.
Okay.
Hi, Erin. It's Caitlin from CityNet. I love all of these. I think this would be really useful for us because we have to, or I send reports monthly for services and like all of these metrics basically, and it would be really useful to have it broken down for each user and case manager, so we kind of know, who to contact and where we need improvement and stuff like that in order to meet the deliverables and stuff that we have within our contracts for, the different cities and stuff. So I think this would be really useful. I know that I would probably use this regularly, all of them, to kind of help with reporting and also like watching our users to see, who needs what and who needs more assistance in the different categories.
Okay, thanks.
Erin, this is
Kind of on-
Christine.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
This is Christine. So you started off saying it's a dashboard. So can you walk me through what that means? Like me as a user, I'll see my dashboards, or me as an administrator, I can see the dashboard for my other users that I'm managing. And then are we going to have to choose between 1, 2, and 3, or will we have access to the spread?
So it seems like many of you are liking most, if not all of these. So to do that, it would probably end up being a few different dashboards, since we can only have like 25 charts on each one. So a dashboard would be available to be pulled from HMIS, and it would include all of the users at your agency. So like if we had a dashboard for data that was entered in a reporting period, it would include like these 3 charts, as well as assessments and files. And so it would be 5 charts, 1 dashboard. And then for OCHA, you would see a list of every user at your agency that contributed any data in any of those 5 charts during the reporting period.
Just on a kind of maybe semi-relevant to the group note, we have, as you know, a lot of collaboratives. So people from other agencies jumping into Mercy House and vice versa. Would there be a way to track those who are within our agency at other agencies, or perhaps the inverse, tracking people who are at our agency but are originally from a different agency?
Yes, we can do that for you.
Thanks.
All right, well, all of you are thinking, I'm gonna launch our little poll. So feel free to contribute. It's just 2 quick questions. The first is if you think a dashboard would be useful. And the second is, if yes, which of the chart or slides that I showed you would you be interested in? And I can go back and forth between the slides if that's helpful as well. I got a question from Caitlin. Will any user be able to pull these reports? So yes, they would, unless we were to schedule them to send to certain people. But if they were available in HMIS, yes.
Erin, just a quick thing as I'm looking at these, which type of one would we like? There's one that says data complete list by data element.
That's this one.
Okay, and then there's another one that says clients with missing data. Isn't that kind of the same?
It is looking at the same type of data, but this, the data completeness by data element is so you can see each data element and how each user is performing. That might be helpful if a user is struggling with like approximate date homelessness started or something like that. The clients with missing data is just going to tell you how many clients the user entered that had errors. It's not going to tell you the specific ones unless you run like the details report.
Okay, so on that line, I'm thinking the data completeness by data element will tell me more, because what I need to know is when my users are inputting a new client or they're doing a program start, I need to know what aspect of that enrollment process they're missing. Would you agree?
Yeah, so this one will drill down a little bit more and give you like easier at a glance. And so, yeah, if a user is struggling in one area more than another, one data element more than another, this would be really helpful for that. If you are just interested in to see overall how your users are performing, then this clients with missing data could be more useful. And just to be clear, I don't mean performing like necessarily they're doing a bad job, but it could be that you have 2 data entry people and they're getting all the errors because they're doing all the data entry. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a way to help with like training purposes.
No, it sounds very helpful. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And Erin, would you mind going over the data entered again one more time? What was
That was this one. So it's just a count of how many enrollment
Oh, okay.
services, that kind of stuff they entered.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna leave the poll open for a few more seconds. I did get at least one person said that they have something else that they would like to see. If you can, it would be helpful if you could share that as well.
I assume me. So this is kind of just born out of maybe curiosity, as well as speaking to my potential blind spots. But as you know, Mercy House has a ton of case managers who have HMIS access with varying degrees of proficiency. And something we've seen in our annual assessment compliance is sometimes we have data entry specialists who are assigned to annual assessments, but then we also have individual case managers who take it upon themselves to enter assessments directly. I'd be very curious to see like if there's a way to measure volume of annual assessments entered by user.
Yes, I have to see if we can drill down to like the type of assessment, but we can track how many assessments were entered.
That would be very, very awesome if you have the time and curiosity.
Okay.
Yeah, I second that. That would be helpful information for OCHA as well.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna close down the poll. Thank you all so much for participating. You hopefully can see the results. So everyone that participated said they would like a data dashboard for users. And there was pretty much even distribution across what people thought would be helpful. So we will work on incorporating all of these. It'll end up being multiple dashboards for sure in order to incorporate these. But we will definitely start working on that. And then as we have them available, we will share them at the user meetings so that you all can start using them as they become available. Any last comments, questions, or ideas for the dashboards? All right, just give me 1 minute so I make sure I have the results. I got a question. When can we expect these changes to take place? So we are going to start working on, we'll try to have one a month for the next few months. It's not going to be all of them at one time just because it's going to be a lot of work, but we'll try to release one of these at the next user meeting, and then from there try and do one a month. That's what the goal will be. All right. So thank you all again for your feedback. That will be helpful for us as we move forward with this. So let me move into the rapid rehousing project performance reports. So these reports were published maybe up to a week ago. The reporting period was March 1st, 2021 through February 28th, 2022. And as usual, we do have the project scores report so you can see how each of your projects are performing for the measures that we included. For those of you that have COC funded rapid rehousing projects, these scores will be used as part of the upcoming ranking and rating criteria. And these are the scores that will be used. We are no longer making any revision to these scores. Unless you think that we miscalculated something, then we can definitely look into it. But if there was data entry issues by your agency, we're no longer making those corrections for this reporting period. So please review your data. If you do think we made a calculation error, definitely let us know and we'll start working on that right away. So I'm going to start out with just an overview of each measure. So for goal 1, clients entering from homelessness, we've been staying fairly consistent. We did have a little bit of a decline, but we're maintaining the same general performance over time. For goal 4, we're looking at how long it's taking clients to be placed in units after they're enrolled in the project, and we did have a bit of an increase. I wanted to stop and see if any rapid rehousing providers had any thoughts on why it's taking a little bit longer. Is it related to the pandemic, or if there's another reason that anyone had to share for that?
This is Carlia with Stand Up. I think one of the biggest issues that we have with our youth is that they don't have credit. And a lot of the different housing opportunities request a credit check. So I think that's a hindrance for our youth.
Okay, thank you, Carlia.
Hi, Erin. Does this take into account the EHV new projects that went into the system?
It does if they're the supportive services projects that are getting the ESG rapid rehousing funds.
I know that process has, because it's very prescribed, it is a long process because we have to go through like RTAs and all that kind of stuff. And I wonder how much of the increase is EHV related versus what would it be if you took those out?
Okay. Thanks, Rosalinda.
Real quick, this is Justin from Volunteers of America. For our rapid rehousing, we actually, because of, there was a spike of COVID cases in January where a lot of our staff ended up getting out, and a lot of the CRRC VASH staff were out for a while too, and that delayed a lot of vouchers from being issued for months. So because of that, a lot of our participants ended up staying much longer than usual because of that.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you guys for sharing. Did anybody have, Carlia mentioned the credit check for youth, it can extend the process. Did anybody have any experience with that and any ways that could help them deal with that? Or is it just kind of is what it is? Looks like it is what it is. Okay. Thank you all for sharing. That's helpful context. So I will keep going. For goal 6, we're looking at adults that increase their income while they were enrolled in the project. It is nice to see that we are very slowly increasing this performance on this measure every time we do this. So that's great. A little progress is better than no progress at all. So good job, everyone. Goal 7, we are a little more inconsistent on this over time. And so our performance is a little bit lower than it was, but we're kind of generally staying in the same range also. I got a comment from Adriana. Over the past year, landlords have increased eligibility to be 3 times the rent versus 2.5 times. I imagine this is pandemic related. Okay, thanks. Just taking notes. All right. Next up, we have goal 8. So this is looking at the percentage of clients that are exiting a rapid rehousing project to a permanent housing situation. We have had another bit of the decrease for this measure. So I wanted to stop and see if anyone had any feedback on or thoughts on why performance may be declining for this measure. I'm looking at the reasons for goal 4 that people mentioned. I'm wondering if some of these projects that have a longer process, either for EHV or for eligibility stuff, if more clients are dropping out because the process is taking longer, or if maybe there's another reason that anyone can share.
I know for our agency, Families Forward, because of increase of resources into the system, we had some problems with meeting some of our grant goals early on. And we kind of had to condense a lot of our goal attainment in the second half of the grant year. Because of that, we had to cast a wider net and took on probably double the matches than we normally would have. So those could result, because there's always a drop-off rate, and those could result in move-ins. And in some ways, it was very helpful to cast that wider net because we had more cases to work through that could end up in housing at any given time. But in some ways, that casting that wider net hurt us because we're subject to more negative outcomes because we're just kind of figuring out in the timeline that we have, who can we effectively help move in. And that definitely changed our specific goals for like measure 8 of successful exits.
Okay. Thanks. Pathways of Hope also said they're experiencing the same thing. So thanks for sharing that. All right, I'm going to keep going. Goal 10. This is looking at clients that exited to permanent housing situations and what percentage of those clients later returned to the homeless system in HMIS. So this is usually a strong measure for rapid housing projects, and you can see we're only at 4% of clients returning after exiting the permanent housing, which is great. All right, and we had 4 new measures this time related to rapid rehousing projects in the coordinated entry system. So the first measure is looking at goal 11, the percentage of referrals that were received from the coordinated entry system. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on all of these when we get to those specific measures, but goal 12 is looking at the percentage of denied referrals that were denied by the housing provider, and we're just above our threshold for that measure. Goal 13 is looking at matches accepted from the coordinated entry system, or how long it's taking to accept matches from the coordinated entry system. So we're just over our threshold for that measure. And goal 14 is the percentage of matches to a housing project that were successful. And we're just under the threshold for that one. So I'll get more into these in a minute. All right, so goal 1, this is going into a little bit more detail now. This is entries from homelessness. You can see the overall project type is performing at 91%, and then you can see for each subpopulation how they're performing. Of the clients that are not entering from homeless situations, 35% of them are coming from family or friends. 32% are from permanent housing situations, and another 26% are from temporary situations. Goal 4 is how long it's taking to place households in units after they enroll. So it looks like households with children are being placed in units more quickly than other populations. You can see households without children is 57 days. So yeah, there's definitely a discrepancy there. This bar chart is how the number of enrollments that fell into each of these categories. So you can see over 50% of the enrollments are being placed within 30 days of the enrollment, which is great. That is meeting our threshold. So we're on the right track. We just need to keep moving in that direction. Goal 6 is looking at adults that increase their income while enrolled in the project. We're pretty consistent across the different population types. And you can see in the donut the breakdown of enrollments that increase their income, so 45%, and then another 25% maintain their income, 18% decreased their income, and 11% had no income. So almost 3/4 of the clients either maintained or increased their income, which is great. I always like to remind people for the income measures, make sure you're putting into HMIS any cost of living increases or raises that your clients may get. That will help with this measure as well.
Erin, this may be like a dumb question, but I'm kind of out of practice sometimes. For the measure above that you just shared, while they're enrolled in the project, does the increased income measure only begin to calculate if a family moves into permanent housing, or if they're enrolled, whether they're in permanent housing with a move-in date or not?
So for goal 6, it's looking at stayers that have been enrolled in the project for at least a year. It's not looking at whether or not they're in a housing unit, it's just their length, how long they've been in the project.
Thank you.
All right, goal 7 is also looking at increased income, but it's looking at exited adults only. Again, we're fairly consistent over the different population types. Almost half of the clients exited maintained their income. Another 24% increased their income. And then the remainder either had no income or decreased income. Goal 8 is looking at exits to permanent housing situations. 57% of all clients exited to permanent housing. That measure was a little bit lower for chronically homeless clients, so they're a little bit less likely to exit to permanent housing situations than other populations. Of the clients that are not exiting to permanent housing, most of them are returning to a homeless situation. Another 349 clients are exiting to unknown situations. And those are the 2 highest situations that clients are exiting to. Goal 10 is looking at clients that exit to permanent housing and later return to the homeless system over the previous 2 years. Performance is consistent across the different populations. of those clients that are returning to the homeless system, 39% of them are returning to rapid rehousing projects. That could be a data entry error on the entry and exit dates. The reason I say that is most rapid rehousing projects are matching clients from the coordinated entry system. So they usually won't be coming directly from one rapid rehousing project to another unless they are being transferred from one project to another. And so if a client is being transferred and they exit one project and they enroll in another, the exit date should, and the start date should be like 1 day apart. They should be exiting one day and enrolling the next day, or even maybe the same day. So if that's happening, if you're transferring a client from one project to another, make sure those start and exit dates are correct. Because if they are less than 14-day gap between the two enrollments, that is not counted as a return to homelessness. That's just flow through the homeless system. But if it's more than 14 days, it's considered a return. So just keep that in mind with your data entry. Another 29% of the clients are returning to street outreach projects. And that is likely legitimate returns because many of the clients in the coordinated entry system are first seen through street outreach or emergency shelter.
Erin, do you mind if I have a couple of questions?
Sure.
So one thing we've experienced, previously mentioned, there's a lot more resources, or especially at the beginning of the year, in terms of resources available to families. And we did have more than before families that wanted to be transferred to other housing types. So for example, they were matched to one grant but wanted to go to a different grant. They were matched to rapid rehousing but wanted to go to EHV. Mm-hmm. Those clients stay on the roster of both projects, even though they said, actually, I end up not wanting this. I want that instead. They'll stay in the first agency's roster, and that's counted as an unsuccessful exit, and then go to the new agency's roster. Is that accurate?
So if they are going from one rapid rehousing project to the other, they should be, or rapid rehousing to permanent supportive housing, that rapid rehousing exit should be to the location where they're going. So there's an option for permanent housing for homeless clients, which would be permanent supportive housing. And there's also an option for a rental with rapid rehousing subsidy. So that should be the exit from rapid rehousing. And so because this measure is looking at clients that exit to permanent housing and then later return, those clients, if that first exit is to either permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing, those clients would fall into this universe of being included in the measure. But that's why the gap between the exit date and the entry date has to be less than 14 days so that they're not counted as a return.
Yeah, based on what we experienced, oftentimes it's rapid rehousing to rapid rehousing. So it was like HUD or to CARES, or HUD to EHV, which are all classified as rapid rehousing. And then between the client, their access point, and this provider, they decided that the different intervention, even though it was similar because of like timelines or resources, it would be a better fit for the client, and they still maintain in both rosters. So my question is like, are we interpreting the way we're exiting families incorrectly? Because it is still not permanently housed, because they're going to another rapid rehousing and still have to do the housing navigation, but they just opted for a different program type or a different funding type.
Yeah, so once they transfer, you should be exiting the first one. You shouldn't keep it open. But the exit for the first one can be rental by client with rapid rehousing subsidy, because that is their expected destination.
Yeah, so I feel like there's a lot of data we've messed up on then, because I think we were interpreting it a totally different way because they hadn't been permanently housed yet. So that's a big learning opportunity for us today. Thank you.
Sure. Erica asked, what if the time we exit, they aren't housed yet in their new program? The HUD data standards said it's where they're expected to go. So they don't have to be physically housed yet, but they're expected to go to that rapid rehousing project and get housed. So that's why you can choose the rental with rapid rehousing subsidy. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So now I'm gonna get into these new measures. And so, like I mentioned, the data on this PPR will be used in the NOFA ranking process and will help with the your scores. However, the COC board has not decided yet which measures will be included. So it could be all of these measures, it could be some of them. That will be decided at a future COC board meeting, but it will be the data on this report. It just may or may not be all of these measures. So goal 11. This is looking at the percentage of enrollments that were entered during the reporting period that were the result of a referral from the coordinated entry system. So you can see the data by population. There's a lower percentage of veteran enrollments being referred from the coordinated entry system. This is likely because most of those veterans are in SSVF projects, which are not required to receive referrals from coordinated entry. So that may be why that percentage is lower. Households without children is also really low. And this is likely because most of the COC funded, or maybe all of the COC funded rapid rehousing is for families. And so in the bar charts here, you can see the percentage of referrals from CES versus not having a referral from CES. So the top is looking at COC funded projects. So 76% of the enrollments into COC funded projects were the result of a referral from coordinated entry. Compared to projects that are not COC funded, only 9% were referred from CES, which makes sense because there wasn't a requirement for that referral. Goal 12 is looking at the percentage of referrals or matches that were denied as a result of the housing provider. So we're pretty consistent across the different populations, but I do want to talk about this donut a little bit. We talked about it last time also, so I'm going to pull up those slides in a minute, but you can see 39% of denied referrals were because of a client denial. So this is a data entry error. If the referral is denied by the client, the denial type should be client, not provider. So this is an easy way to improve your project performance for this measure is looking at that data. Another 25% of the denials were other, so I'll go over that in a second. 18% were that the referral time expired, and 16% were inappropriate referrals. So, nope, that's not it. For goal 12, on the left, you can see this is all of the options in HMIS for why a referral was denied. The options in this top box were kind of rolled up into that client denial option on the donut. And then these were all rolled up into the inappropriate referral, just to give you some more context on what that means. And then I also wanted to go over some of the, so when you select other as a reason for denial, you also have to enter a note. And so these were some of the most common notes that were entered about for other denials. And many of these should actually be captured under one of the existing options in Clarity. So this is just to provide that context. If there is non-compliant with requests for items or information, that should fall under disagreement with rules. If there was no contact with the client, that should be the client did not show up or call. If the housing opportunity was not available, that would be full capacity or no availability. If the client declined, that should be client refused services. If the voucher expired, that should be full capacity or no availability. And if the client was ineligible, then it should be the lack of eligibility option.
So Erin, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I kind of disagree with voucher expired equaling full capacity, because we issued that certificate in our case, and that certificate is open and available. It's just the client never used it. Even after many times we extend, and it just goes unused. So then we have to turn around and reopen the opportunity. So it's not that the opportunity is not available, it's that the client never utilized it.
Okay. Does anyone else have thoughts on that? Myra, maybe from the CES perspective?
Can you repeat that? Sorry, I was looking for to see if a KB existed on this.
Christine was saying that voucher expired should maybe not be full capacity or no availability because the voucher is still available. It's just no longer available to that client.
No, just the client never used it. So like the client themselves never leased up. They never found an appropriate unit for them in the time of the voucher. So we give them 90 days. We automatically extend that 90 days to 120 days. If they don't find a unit in that time frame, they have the opportunity to ask us for an extension, which we do many times in this population. So we can extend. There's no limit on the extensions as long as they keep asking for them. But if they never can find a unit, that voucher just goes unused. So that client would have to go back to CES and start all over again. And then that voucher now is being used for somebody else. We would turn it over for somebody else. So it's not that we are at full capacity or that we don't have the availability. Now, you might be saying that the market has full capacity, no availability, but again, I don't think that's a true statement.
Would it then be considered like a referral time expired reasoning then? I think you had that on the previous slide.
So these are the options on the left, Christine.
Is maybe a better question then.
Yeah, because we read that as the referral itself time expired, not that the person didn't use it. We need to demonstrate that the person was referred, we made them eligible. They then had that certificate, that ability to go out and find a unit, that golden ticket, as we like to say, but then they never used it. They just, if you in essence threw it away, didn't use it. I don't think referral time expired says that story either. Now, if you instruct me that that's what that means, then that's what we'll do.
Was that Caitlin that was talking or someone else? Or Aubrey, maybe?
I think it might have been me, Erin, Adriana from Wise Place. So I guess my question was for Christine, if we didn't think it fell under that category, then which of these drop-down options do you think it is?
We don't. We use other and we type in voucher expired because we don't feel any of those depict what's going on in our case. That's why you're seeing that on that next screen that said other, and that was one of the big ones. That's probably us, and that's what we put.
Erin, out of curiosity, I don't think, are we able to add more reasons for that, like this denial drop down, or are these preset?
I believe they were preset, but I can confirm that. So how about, because Myra also mentioned putting this in a KV, which we can do. So I will reach out to the CES folks separately to kind of confirm this stuff. And then if there's any other ones that come up also, I will consolidate those and reach out to the CES people, and then we can put it in a KV.
So for now, just for my education, you want me to use full capacity, no availability for voucher expired?
For voucher expired, let's continue as other for the moment, and then we'll work on the KV.
Will do, thank you.
Question, if they were issued a voucher, should they be enrolled into the program? Yes. That was what we talked about before, Christine, right? That once the voucher is
Yeah,
issued-
but what we're talking about now is, okay, so you're saying then, okay, this is the one we had before. So yes, to Aubrey's point, yes, we would project enroll them. We would enroll them into the project when that certificate's issued. If it expires though, we have to exit them, but we never actually serve them. So we would delete that enrollment and then go back and deny the referral.
Well, it should be an unsuccessful exit.
That's why we delete it, because we don't want an unsuccessful exit because they never enrolled. So we delete that project start. And then we go back to because now we go back to the referral and we deny the referral.
Okay, I'll check with the CES people on that also, because I thought we had said that the enrollment would not be deleted, but I can confirm with the CES people. All right. The other thing I was going to say about this one, last time we talked about incorrect vouchers. And so I hate what I'm about to say. So for incorrect vouchers or incorrect referrals, sorry, what we would like to happen is that the referral would be deleted because it never should have occurred in the first place. However, we heard from BitFocus that there isn't, because, okay, let me step back. What happens right now is if a referral is deleted, the client is not returned to the community queue. And so the user would have to add them to the queue again, and they would lose any history they have of ever being on the queue. So that's the functionality and clarity. And so we cannot delete incorrect referrals because of that. And so in that case, the guidance we got from BitFocus was that other should be selected as the reason for the denial, and then the note would be something like incorrect match. So that came up last time, so just clarifying that'll also be in the KP article. I don't like that answer, but that is what it is. Your favorite other, no. All right, our next measure is looking at the number of days between match and acceptance into the housing project. So for rapid rehousing, the threshold is less than or equal to 14 days, which is lower than the threshold for permanent supportive housing. Because when we looked at the data in February, rapid rehousing projects were doing a little bit better on this measure, likely because of eligibility criteria. So that's why those thresholds are different. But in our bar chart, you can see the breakdown of how many days it's taking each enrollment to be accepted. 46% of enrollments are accepted within 14 days, so that's great. And then you can see the breakdown. Most of the rest are between 15 and 45 days. So we're doing fairly well on this one. It's just when we set the threshold, we gave ourselves a little room for improvement, but we have a good start. And then our last goal is looking at the percentage of matches to a project that were successful. And again, we're looking at COC versus non-COC funded projects. And the rate of successful referrals is very close between both, which is actually a good thing because it just shows that the projects are being treated the same, and the same eligibility criteria are being taken into consideration. The same thoughtfulness for the process is occurring for all projects, not certain projects. So that's good news. All right, so that was all I have on the reports. So did anyone have any other questions or comments about the PPR? All right, so as a reminder, these reports are available in Clarity if you want to run them for your projects, and you can do that as often as you would like to review and correct your performance as needed. The only two that are not on there are the returns measure and the, I think that's actually it for rapid rehousing, because that one's a little bit more complicated, but the rest of these you can look at in Clarity and correct your data as needed. That was all of the content I have for today. I will stay on a minute in case anyone has any comments or questions. If you haven't already, please enter your agency name into the chat box. I will be sending out a follow-up email next week with the meeting minutes, as well as the slides and the recording from this meeting. And the next meeting is scheduled for June 9th. And we'll be releasing the agenda for that meeting at the user meeting on the 1st. So I'll stay on for a minute. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for attending. And we will talk to you next time.
Thanks, Erin. Have a good day.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Bye-bye.
Hi, Erin, Adriana again.
Hi.
So I was wondering if there's a video training or a KB on how I could dive deep into this data. So I'm looking at our numbers and I wanted, somebody referenced the term dynamic, like to be able to click on it and see exactly what is reflecting this data. Could you point me in the direction of finding that resource so I could get into it?
So the best place to start would be the project performance overview document, because that goes over each measure and it tells you like what's an entry from homelessness and what's not. So that would be a good place to start, and I can link that in the meeting minutes also. We are working on a recorded training on the project performance reports also, but that's not available yet. So I would start with that PPR document.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Is there I'm pretty sure there is. I'm looking at the overview document. I actually have it pinned to my cork board in front of my face, but is there a report? I'm sure there is a report I can run that gives me the breakdown of all of this.
Yes.
Okay.
I can pull it up really quick. Hold on.
So for example, I'm looking at the project performance scores and I'm looking at the percentage. So then I want to look at like, okay, who is being counted in this percentage and then look at that data so that we clean it up for the next round.
Yes. We do have something, I'm just pulling it up. Okay. So I am in Clarity.
Mhm,
I went to the reports library and then the data analysis tab.
mhm,
If you scroll down to project performance reports,
mhm,
these are what you need. So the rapid rehousing project performance report will give you your project score for each measure.
mhm.
So it'll look similar to, it'll look like this. So like it'll say for your project, what your score was for goal 1, and then what it was. It won't be in the same format, but that's the type of data it's going to show you.
Mhm,
And then this details report, it lists all the clients that are included in that summary data and what their specific response was
mhm.
for that measure. So that's what you can use to find clients and correct your data.
Details, got it. Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate it, Erin.
Okay, great.
Hey, Aaron, I'm still on here too. This may or may not be relevant for this, but I noticed those new measures and they seem to be CES related. And we've discovered a thing where, and I know we've talked about this before, and it was part of our hesitation to move this way, but in the CES, when we know we have a grant that is low performing, so we need to add more people to it, or a lot of people exited, what have you, we'll make the opportunities. Say it's grant 4. And then it goes through match meeting. They match 50 clients to 4. Great. That's all wonderful. Then we go through the process of eligibility, which that can take a month or so. Then we send them out with their certificates, which, like I said, they get 120 days. They might get more extensions, so forth and so on. So sometimes it happens where by the time the clients do find a unit and they're ready to move in, other clients that were out searching from a previous and our opportunity that we put out could have leased up. And we're gonna, when they come to lease up, that's when we first expend the money. And we talked about this before with you between the project start and move-in date. For us, they're one and the same. When they move in, that's when we can truly expend money on the grant funds. And so that's what starts the clock for us. And that's where any administration that we've done up till now, we can charge against it. Obviously, when we start paying that first month's rent, that's what starts everything. So it's at that point we're expending money. So it's at that point that we look at our grants again and say, who's the lowest performing when it comes to how much finances are being left on the table, and we'll enroll them in that grant first, because that's the priority grant, which could be a completely different grant than the opportunity we sent out, than the project start we did, because at the point we made them eligible, we just maybe kept it the same or whatever. So then it leaves that CES referral unmatched. The reason is when I go into program, start them, if it's a different project than they were matched to or that we had the opportunity for, I don't have the chance to see that toggle button that says, was this a result of a CES match? It only works if it's exactly the same grant. So if I did an opportunity grant 4, I started them in grant 4, and I moved them in grant 4, it works fine. If I started them in 4, I actually issued them their certificate in 3, and by the time they came to find a unit, I had to put them in 1. I can't, those breadcrumbs don't work.
Yes, so if the change occurs when you're still in the eligibility phase before you enroll them, then that's a little bit more simple. And so you would enter a ticket with the help desk, and we can link the enrollment or the match to the whatever the new enrollment is.
Okay.
So we can do that. If they have already been enrolled, the proper process that we learned from HUD was that the client needs to be matched again. So they would have to be added to the queue again and rematched. But I'm not sure if that has been implemented yet with the CES team, but that is something that we've talked about with them.
Okay, so let me give you another scenario. When I look at my referral screen, I see 10 pages of sitting out there referrals. And I believe that's when we went from the manual system of coordinated entry, and then we suddenly went online. And I think a data dump happened. All those clients, they're like from 2019, 2020. They're from a long time ago. And they're in various different programs, or some of them never got matched or never was made eligible. How do I clean that up? Because it's a lot.
Yeah, so it depends on what happened with the client, but there is an option to deny referrals. So like so it depends on the reason. Like if the client disappeared, never showed up, then it would be a denial by the client, and you would say like.
But these are old. What I'm saying is they already enrolled in a program before the CES came online. And then CES came online, and then all those ones that were on the manual system, like on the spreadsheets, got put into the CES.
Yes, so because we had to include everyone during that reporting year for the APR so that we could do an APR for that full year. So there were some clients that were older that had to be included for that.
So I'm gonna have to go through these one by one.
Yes, but we could help you with that if you gave us like a spreadsheet or something, we could help.
Is there a way to run a report and pull all active referrals?
Yes, that is the pending matches report.
They're matched. Most of them are matched to consolidated for.
Yes, so the report is pending households matched to housing opportunities. So this would
Okay.
be all the clients that have been matched but aren't enrolled yet.
Gotcha.
Or denied. Yeah.
That'll help me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take a look at it, and then I'll write a ticket if it's crazy.
Okay.
Thank you for staying on and answering my question. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too.
Okay, bye.
All right, I got another question for site-based PSH. A match does not timely deliver application documents or fails to appear for scheduled appointments. How should the return be coded? So if the client didn't provide documents, then it would be disagreement with rules. I think I put it on here. Yeah, so if there was non-compliance with requests for items or information, that it would be considered disagreement with rules. So the type of denial would actually be client, and then the reason would be disagreement with rules. If the client failed to appear for the scheduled appointment, then it would be also the type would be client, and the reason for the denial would be the client did not show up or call. All right, any last comments or questions before we wrap up? All right, thank you all for attending and asking good questions. And we will send out the meeting materials next week, and we will talk to you soon. Have a good day, everyone.